Well, what do these gloves have to do with the Holy Spirit? I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Happy Pentecost, everybody. I'm broadcasting today from my backyard, and you can hear the birds celebrating the birth of a new morning. And I'm celebrating with our church the gift of the Holy Spirit that poured out upon God's people 2,000 years ago on the day of Pentecost. It was such an incredible moment in the life of the church. It's the day the church was born and God was born in the hearts through his spirit. And they and the world, frankly, has never been the same since that moment. It wasn't the first time that the Holy Spirit showed up. In the very first verses of the Bible, we find while the earth was without form and void and darkness covered the deep, the Spirit was hovering over the face of the waters, and that Spirit was ready to give birth to the world, to transform that place of darkness and void into the beautiful planet we now call Earth. And that same Holy Spirit does that same transforming work in our lives and in our world still today. It's interesting to me that the Hebrew word for spirit is ruach, and you can't even say that word if you hold your hand in front of your mouth and say it ruach, you feel the breath hitting against your hand, and that's because the word means spirit or wind or breath. And we can't even say Yahweh without feeling the breath, the wind of our voices hitting our hand. The Spirit of God is the wind, the breath of God. It's that same ruach that breathed into Adam's nostrils to bring him to life. It was that same ruach, the Spirit of God, that blew across the Red Sea and parted the seas with the wind, with the ruach of God to provide a way where there was no way for the people of Israel. It was the same ruach that came across Mary and helped her conceive the baby Jesus in her womb. And it was the same ruach, I'm convinced, that breathed into Jesus' lifeless body as he laid in the tomb and brought him to life. That same ruach brings all things to life. And that's what the wonder and the gift of the Holy Spirit is for the world today. So, as kids, you probably may have heard how God um, and the Holy Spirit are such an integral part of our lives, and that's why I have these gloves here. The Holy Spirit is not an it or a what; it's a who. It's the third person of the Trinity, and He desires to fill our lives. And last night I used these gloves to add some chemicals to our pool, and when I picked them up out of the bottom of my Home Depot bucket, they were pretty lifeless and useless, right? But when I inserted my hand into the gloves, an incredible thing happened. They came to life. And it was a difference between this kind of useless and lifeless and this full of life. And this is what our lives are like when it's filled with the Spirit of God. We take shape, we take form, we come to life, we have purpose, and God's dream for our lives begins to take shape. And this is what our lives are like, obviously, without the Holy Spirit. So, my prayer for us today is that we would allow the Spirit of God to fill our lives. I'm convinced that when we realize that God not only wants to walk with us, but He wants to live within us through His Holy Spirit, that's life transforming and life changing. This morning, when I woke up, I just kind of lay there in bed, and as my body began to stir awake, I found myself breathing in deeply and then exhaling and repeating that rhythm over and over. And as I did so, I was thinking about the Ruach of God, the one who gives me life, the one who gives me breath. And I was praying that God's life and breath and wind would blow through and from my life into the lives of others today as I live and share His love. So that's my prayer for you today, is that you would take a deep breath, but that you would also exhale, knowing that in that rhythm of breathing, that God is present and that He is present to transform your soul, your life, and the world in and through you and me. And I think that's a beautiful message for Pentecost. So I hope that encourages your soul today. I'm all suited up, ready to head off to Vacation Bible School this morning. Thanks for sharing your children with us and letting us breathe God's life into them. May God breathe life into you today. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining.